You are a first-year teacher, or maybe you're a seasoned teacher, please don't sleep on the AI.
So ChatGPT to the rescue.
A new school in San Francisco that's using AI to reimagine learning. There are no bells, no grades, not even teachers.
I'm answering math questions on my app Nori. Use repeated addition to find the product.
There is such a huge advantage when students can be met at the level and pace of learning that is right for them.
My teachers and staff and my students understand it's a tool. It is not a replacement of the human intelligence.
I want to get everyone's perspectives in together to create basically like a policy or philosophy that will benefit everyone.
You know what they need. And if AI happens to enhance your understanding or your support for learning, then let's try it out and see how we can enhance your capacity as a teacher.
Education is going to get better. And I think the best way to do that is really turn the teacher in front of the classroom model on its head and allow technology to do what it can do really well.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lisa Bonos. I'm a Washington Post tech reporter based in San Francisco, and I'm thrilled to be joined today by two leaders reimagining the future of education in the age of AI. MacKenzie Price, co-founder of Alpha School, and Kip Glazer, principal of Mountain View High School in Northern California. MacKenzie, Kip, welcome to the Washington Post Global Women's Summit.
Thank you for having us, and thanks for being here, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Let's get started. Kip, Mountain View High School is a public school in the heart of Silicon Valley, and you are deeply immersed in the world of AI. First, can you briefly explain how AI is being used in your school, and what are the questions or concerns that students have about the technology?
First of all, thank you for having me. And I just wanted to give a huge shout out to my parents who are back in South Korea. 엄마, 아빠, 저 여기 있어요. AI is being used in a way that is enhancing our student learning, but also not as readily available as people like to believe in Silicon Valley. We have been approaching it as go slow to go fast. So we have had technology committee to decide what types of tools that are already existing and how do we slowly adopt so that students are at the center of all the decisions that we're making.
And I understand that students themselves are asking for guidance on how.
Absolutely, and I think there is a misnomer when we talk about AI that students are somehow using this to cheat or shortcut their learning. But when I speak to my students, they're actually asking for guidance. They want to know what is allowed and what is not allowed, and then they're extremely thoughtful about their future and how this is being introduced to them so that they can become better learners.
Makes sense. MacKenzie, Alpha School takes a different approach. You have 2 hours every day of personalized AI-driven learning, followed by real-life skill building. Why did you design education in this way, and how have you evolved with the recent AI developments?
I think this is the most exciting time in history to be a 5-year-old, and it's also the most exciting time to be a teacher. If there's any teachers out there, you guys are absolutely amazing. And what we're doing, we're actually going very fast and very deep in order to really elevate human intelligence. And we're able to do that both in the mornings by having our students get totally personalized, one-to-one mastery-based tutoring, which technology and artificial intelligence learning plans are able to make sure our students are learning so efficiently and effectively. That's why our classes are top 1% in the country. I would argue there's not another school delivering the kind of academic results we're doing. But we do it in 2 hours a day, and that frees up the rest of the day for kids to learn the life skills that they need to be successful in this new world and learn how to use AI tools that are going to give them superpowers.
Great. Kip, when I speak to teachers, some of them are really worried that AI could replace them, and others are eager to use these tools in their classroom. What do you think is the best way to empower educators with AI?
Yes, I think when we talk about AI in the classroom and just focusing on the efficiency or productivity of AI, I think we're missing the point. And I believe that Alpha School can be successful and is successful, not because what is happening with AI as much as what is happening rest of the time. So whenever we try to introduce technology tool to school ecosystem, and we think about learning as acquisition of discrete piece of knowledge, and we want to accelerate it, and I think we're missing the point entirely about what learning is really about. Learning is about gaining knowledge and skills to be able to apply in novel contexts. And you can only do that, in my opinion, when human intelligence is at its core. So I believe public schools have that structure. I wish there was better leadership or vision and innovation to allow our teachers to actually do what they know how to do, which is interact with our human students and provide the feedback they need at that moment that they need it.
Thank you. MacKenzie, the price tag for Alpha School is quite high, anywhere from $40,000 a year to $65,000. How do you respond to questions about access and equity?
If we're going to change education for 1 billion kids around the world, it's got to start somewhere, and Alpha is absolutely the high-end private school that is kind of redefining what parents should expect from that school experience. But it's so important to get that out to everyone. And so what we have enabled is models of school to be built upon our time-back learning platform. So in Texas, for example, we've gotten that price tag down to $10,000 per year. And with school choice in certain states, that can be as low as a few $100s a month for families to go. Unfortunately, the public system has not been interested in adopting what we're doing, so we've been having to go through a private distribution model. But I think what Alpha is doing is serving as an example of what's possible in education. And I agree with Kip that the whole key to our success, it's not the ed tech, it's the fact that we have freed up the adult in the classroom to, instead of creating lesson plans and delivering lectures and grading papers and homework, our guides, we call them guides, are able to spend all their time on motivational and emotional connection, mentorship, holding kids to high standards, and providing the high support that's needed for them to do impossible things. And I believe that there will be a world where more and more education systems are going to say, okay, it is time to flip this teacher in front of the classroom model on its head. And I think that artificial intelligence is providing that very precise tool that is going to allow us to truly change the way a classroom is done. So I think where Kip and I agree is the importance of humans. I think we probably just are a little different. I think it's time to get away from the one person teaching a huge variety of people who are all at completely different levels, and let technology do that so that the people in the room can then focus on the emotional connection.
Interesting. Kip, public schools move a lot slower than a private institution, and they don't have the same resources. What are some of the biggest challenges in implementing AI in public education?
Ooh, how much time do you have? Let me just count the ways. I think one of the things that propelled me to become a school leader was seeing the importance of school leaders and their philosophy or an attitude and how it can influence the whole ecosystem. And I still believe that being able to lead your institution with limited resources, but still with grit and innovative spirit, can create excellent results. So I like to believe that if you believe in student agency and empowerment, and allowing teachers to bring out that creativity, we can change the world.
Thanks. MacKenzie, there has been some criticism of Alpha School's philosophy, that Alpha School's philosophy is overly driven by software metrics. And I was wondering, how do you define success, and how do you make sure that kids are valued in these classrooms?
Yeah, well, everything we do is centered around the philosophy that we believe kids are limitless, and it's a school's job to provide an environment that helps unlock their potential. And so we are very data driven in delivering the 3 commitments we have. The first is that kids will love school. So we actually survey our students every 6 weeks. Do you love school? Yes or no? We get about 97% of our students say they love school. But when you think about value in the environment we're creating, we actually take that even further. We ask students, would you rather go to school or go on vacation? And I will
What do they say?
It depends on the vacation. But in general, we're getting between 50 and 60% of our students would rather go to school than go on vacation, which I think is a huge sign around the health of our culture. Our second commitment is that kids will learn twice as much in 2 hours a day. And I think in order to make real radical change in education, we have to show true data that shows this is working. Unfortunately, grades have become meaningless in our society, and you'll see this in her home state, right? Test scores have gone down, grades go up, and that's happening all over the country. And so we rely on third-party assessments to be able to show, is this working for our students? And I think the beauty about our model is that we can take those assessments and use them to actually implement learning plans that meet kids where they're at, whether they're in the 10th percentile or the 99th percentile, the rate of growth goes. And then our third commitment around building life skills, we're able to show all these really fun ways, which is part of what makes kids love school. When they're getting to do things like practice communication and uplifting language, and then go into an escape room and they're mic'd up, and we use AI tools to basically judge the quality of their uplifting language. Kids can have so much fun and learn these skills that are going to help them be successful. And so I think, fundamentally, schools should be doing a better job of educating kids and providing them with things like grit and teamwork and relationship building and socialization, which unfortunately a lot of traditional schools just don't have the time, because they're instead kind of focused on getting through math and reading and English and science.
Yeah, I've certainly experienced that throughout my life. After school, you have to get all those skills in that you didn't learn
Exactly.
before.
Well, and then add homework, which is another thing that I think kids in this day and age, they're so overbooked, and I just think that when you can provide a deeper and more effective learning experience in only a couple hours a day, and then have the rest of the school day to do these other things, then give kids time at home with their family and their friends, and being able to do the fun things that they love. School should be a place where you help find that intersection of passion and talent, and that's what we're working on at Alpha.
Great. Kip, we had the unique experience back in Northern California. I got to observe some of your students lead a workshop with parents, teachers, and younger students talking about AI and how should it be allowed in the classroom or not. How do you think that all these different populations can work together to ensure that AI in schools doesn't diminish students' abilities to think critically and creatively?
I believe that the purpose of education really is to create the educated populace for the protection of democracy, and diversity of thought is fundamental to creating the democratic society. And I think that when you actually allow students to iterate and innovate and productively fail in a school system, rather than worry so much about how am I going to go to the next rung and bring all the diverse voices together, we can create great learning environment. I just think that there needs to be more focused on that human aspect of it, rather than defining learning as acquisition of knowledge that can be tested on a multiple choice test. And I think AI does definitely push us to that direction of being able to create learning environment that is much more targeted and differentiated.
Great. MacKenzie, the federal government is increasingly paying attention to AI in education. And I was just curious, your thoughts. What role do you think that the government should play in either supporting innovation or setting guardrails?
Well, I do think that we have to be very thoughtful about how AI is implemented, and the government has had this big focused lately on becoming AI first. And I think the biggest mistake they could make is putting a chatbot on every kid's computer and saying, oh, great, we're AI forward. In education, chatbots are cheat bots. That's one of the things we do not allow in our school system because unfortunately, most students are using them to cheat. And they have some pretty creative ways of doing that. And it's so important that we help kids understand how to use these as tools to make them more successful without going into that cheating role. But I think also communities know what their families are interested in. I believe from a government perspective, the best thing we can do is open up the market to lots of different types of models so that families can find the type of school that works best for their child. And it's one of the things I think has been really exciting in the last several years, especially since COVID, is there's just been such an emergence of lots of different schools and school models that are giving families that flexibility that they need.
Yeah. I have to respectfully disagree that most students use chatbots to cheat. That's not the experience that I have. I think we can agree to disagree. I do believe that students definitely understand what is harming them if they're shortcutting certain learning experiences. I would like to invite the teachers to really think about if an assessment is designed so that a student can use chatbot to cheat, then perhaps you need to look at that as feedback from the students and think, how do I design an assessment where students know how to use chatbot to enhance their learning experience? So I think we have to be super careful about making generalized statement about how the students are interacting with these tools, because I know for a fact many of my students not only understand why they should not be using chatbot to shortcut their learning, but also how do they want to create the chatbots to enhance other people's learning.
Thank you. MacKenzie, I'm curious, where do you see Alpha Schools in 10 years? AI is moving so fast. Yeah, what do you think the future holds?
We are constantly iterating. We often say that we are like the Apple iPhone. Every 6 weeks there's an update. And so what we're seeing is our apps are getting better and better. We believe that our learning is getting more and more efficient and effective in terms of delivering great student outcomes from an academic perspective. And we've had a lot of demand and interest from families who are saying, you know what, it's time for education to change. This is an industry that's largely been the same for the last 250 years. And if you go to a rural school in India or you go to a high-end private school down the road, you're going to basically see the same model. And I think that demand for something different is what's grown us to 20 plus schools around the country. With more opening, as well as, again, models that are more accessible in price. And I think in the next 10 years, we're going to see millions of kids that are going to be educated with this AI first approach. And we're also going to see so many more educators coming into the field because they're excited about the fact that they can take advantage of the human connection, which that's one thing we can certainly agree on. That's what matters. And I just think that, unfortunately, teachers are leaving the field in droves. They're underappreciated, they're overworked, and they're underpaid. And I believe that using artificial intelligence to free up teachers' time is going to create an environment that more and more people are going to want to be a part of.
Kip, I remember speaking to one of your students who's a high school student, and he was telling me that his sister, who was in middle school, was using AI to do her assignments faster, and even his mind was blown at how fast AI was moving, because that's not how he cut corners in middle school. I'm curious, where you see AI in public schools going in the next 10 years?
I think better questions to ask is, where do we want to see AI go in public education? And I would love to see differentiated training for the teachers and school leaders as much as we think about our students, because I believe that there are so many great educators who want to know how to help their students. And I don't know that the training programs that are out there are equipping our teachers to be able to do the important job of leading the next generation of students. So I would love to see higher education partners who are inviting our teachers, future teachers, to become trained to think about how do we create an environment for teachers to be trained so that they can be learning designers rather than simple instructor or the deliverer of content. So that's what I love to see, and have more project-based, problem-based learning happening in every single classroom. And I think our students definitely deserve that.
Great. MacKenzie, out in Silicon Valley and maybe here as well, there's a lot of conversation around Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation, and has spurred lots of schools to restrict screen time or even remove phones from schools. And so I'm curious how you balance innovation with concerns about screen time.
Jonathan and I have actually enjoyed great conversations around this. And one of the things that we've come in agreement on is that not all screen time is created equal. There is a huge difference between doom scrolling TikTok all day or playing video games and getting this engaged academic experience where learning science principles are allowing you to stay in that challenge zone, not too hard, not too easy. And so that's a big difference. The other thing is our students actually spend less time on screens than the average student around the country. The Wall Street Journal, they released research this past spring that shows the average student is spending about 2.5 hours a day on a screen while in school. And often that's doing things like using screens to go into your textbooks, to do things like that. And so what we found is that the screen time that we're providing is matching that one-to-one tutoring experience that's keeping kids more engaged. I also would look at it as, there's probably someone in the audience who's sitting like this, about to fall asleep listening to us talk. And unfortunately, that's the experience that so many of our students have in our country. And I think the engagement that we're getting from our students is a much richer environment. But the other thing that's really important is, as far as teaching kids skills, screens are going to be around. We have to teach kids how to use them well. And one of the things we focus on is helping our students learn how to be creators and contributors, not just consumers. So instead of just playing video games, why don't you learn to code and build a video game? Instead of just scrolling TikTok, build an app that provides mental health coaching and get that out to your audience. And those are the skills that we have to help kids go. With AI, we know the black and white of knowledge that's there. We need to equip our young people to be able to live in that gray frontier of creating new human knowledge. And I think that when we do this well and we're willing to iterate and constantly try new things, I think that's where we're going to see so much great success. And it's why I'm so optimistic about the fact that we finally have this tool that's going to take education into the next revolution.
To build on that, I think I have a saying, structure dictates behaviors, and then accumulation of those behaviors create culture, right? So if we wanted to address the culture of learning, then we definitely have to look at structure and see what behavior are we inviting. If we keep doubling down on more tests and assessment that is only focusing that discrete piece of knowledge acquisition, then we're going to get those kind of culture where students are schooling rather than learning at school. So I invite all of you to think about what kind of system and structure that we're building so that we can invite the proper behaviors from our future generation.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we're just out of time, but we'll have to wrap it there. Thank you, MacKenzie Price and Kip Glazer, and for being here.
Thank you.